I call the member for Swansea.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. It is with the deepest of concern that I bring to the House's attention that right now my community is hurting. In July last year, the Liberal government privatised Newcastle buses and ferries, and since then we have lurched from one public transport crisis to another. Last year, I outlined my efforts to ensure my community was not forgotten. I made every effort to work in good faith with the newly appointed private provider, Catley. I made every effort to bring my concerns and the concerns of my community to the attention of the Minister for Transport. I requested meetings. I asked for public consultation with the community. I made representations to the Minister and Catley. But from the get-go, the Minister has been arrogant and belligerent in his approach to his portfolio responsibilities. Even worse, he has been dismissive of the legitimate and serious concerns and of the people who really rely on public transport. He claims he's seen no evidence of the disadvantage faced by vulnerable people. Well, in fact, in that case, Mr Speaker, he's either willfully ignorant or didn't bother to look at the changes before signing off on it. And that makes him a liar. 6 months ago, the Minister for Transport sat across from me and patronisingly told me to be patient. Give them 2 minutes, he said. They've only been there for 3 months. Well, Mr Speaker, we're now heading into our 8th month of complete chaos. The so-called assurances I was fed have been mistruths. Broad public consultation, they said. 4 to 7 minute waits between connections, they said. Better services, more frequent services. It's a new way to travel. These are the fake facts that the Minister continues to peddle, all the while ignoring the concerns of public transport users. The 350 bus service, which previously ran from Swansea Heads directly into Newcastle, had one of the highest levels of patronage in the entire network. And up until 3 months ago, it was considered a major route in the Newcastle transport network. The needs of the community haven't radically changed over the last months. But what we have seen is an arrogant transport minister whose tick and flick attitude has forced an unworkable transport network on my community, allowing the private provider to put profit before people. There is now a public transport crisis in my community. I have not spoken to a single person who is better off as a result of these changes. It is no exaggeration to say these changes have ruined people's lives. Take Ebony, who lives in my electorate, for example, a young woman on New Start who was recently travelling to Charlestown for a meeting with her job service provider. Ebony was late for her 10 o'clock appointment because she had to wait 50 minutes at Lake Macquarie Fair for the connecting service. And that is usual. They weren't running late. When she called her job service provider, she was threatened with non-compliance and told her New Start payments could be suspended. We had to fix that as well. I've also heard from Jack. Jack's a student at Merewether High School. He's currently doing his HSC at the selective school at Broadmeadow. Because of the changes that the Minister signed off on, Jack now has to get a bus at 5:32 a.m. in the morning in order to get to school to make his 8 a.m. classes. His commute previously took him less than an hour. It now takes 2 hours and 13 minutes. I've spoken to support service providers who tell me that elderly people have been robbed of what little independence they had and now face severe social isolation. The bus, which formerly ran past the Belmont 16-foot sailing club, has just been completely scrapped, which means patrons can no longer get to the club for social events, such as bingo. The Minister might trivialise this, but this is people's lives. These are all issues which could have been corrected if the Minister had done his job properly. The spin about broad consultation was a lie. Schools were not consulted. Support services and disability service providers were not contacted or consulted. People who actually use public transport were largely excluded from the consultation process, or the fake consultation process as it turns out, and as a result we've had nothing but chaos. The Minister is not fit to hold an office of the Crown, and if he had a shred of dignity, he would tender his resignation immediately.